artist mainly works on objects. He's previously designed sneakers, oil barrels, and skateboards. He can live from his work. This time he's devoting his creativity to a truck.
I start on this side. First I sketch out my design, fill everything in, and work my way around the entire vehicle.
Other artists have painted large murals onto the walls of the former industrial warehouse hosting the festival. Most works were especially created for the festival. Pierrick Segerie has been part of the scene for over 30 years. He helped initiate the festival.
Street art is something unique, in my view. I very much like the name, street art. Usually, 99% of artists don't like that label. I like it a lot, because it embodies a whole philosophy, street and art. Leave out the former, and you're left with art.
Speral hates working under time pressure. He says it stifles his creativity.
There's no problem. I have the entire week to finish. I have planned everything, so I will be done in time. Everything is fine, for now.
In the hall, the public can watch the artists at work, or take part in workshops, where they get to try out spray painting for themselves. Lyon artist Chiempo has developed an interactive pinball machine, and it's a hit. It's a wonderful festival. There's something here for the whole family. Street art appeals to both young and old if they already know a little something about art. The whole city of Lyon is the canvas.
This project is part of the festival. All over the city, in both private and public spaces, projects connected with the theme of street art are underway. This artist is part of one of the local groups. He's probably painted most of the walls in the city. His name is Peck.
Lyon has a long tradition of street art. Murals grace walls all around the city. Some were created in cooperation with the festival. Now Speral has almost finished his truck. It just needs a couple of finishing touches.
I'm very satisfied with the result, and I think it fits right in with the exhibition. The colors really come out well. The vehicle has found its place at the festival. I think these things make life a little more beautiful. Besides, the truck actually runs. I think vans like this are great.
Peinture Fraîche may be a young festival, but it's already a tradition in Lyon.
And with that, we come to the end of another program, and it's time for us to say goodbye. But just before we go, a quick reminder to check out our website for all the details on our viewers draw. With a bit of luck, you could soon be the proud owner of this DW backpack, as well as some other goodies. As always, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.
Legend, 100 years of Joseph Beuys.
Ja.
Artist.
Nee.
Populist. Activist. Who and what does he continue to impact today?
Arts 21. In 30 minutes on DW.
Mafia colony, East Germany. After the fall of the wall, organized crime became more organized than the police. The most powerful mafia organization in the world infiltrated the new federal states and built up criminal networks there. The blind spot of German unity.
In 75 minutes on DW. What people have to say matters to us. That's why we listen to their stories. Reporter, every weekend on DW.
In the early hours of the morning, I cannot sleep because your voice is in my head. In the small hours, in these hours there's no sleep. There's no peace, no love left for the wicked. 'Cause I know your work is never, ever done. I can't sleep, I can't sleep, I can't sleep.
This is DW News, live from Berlin. Protesters in Sudan take to the streets demanding the military takes power. The rally was called by politicians linked to the military. Sudan is undergoing its worst political crisis since long-term leader Omar al-Bashir was ousted in 2019. Also coming up, Russia's daily COVID-19 death toll surpasses 1,000 for the first time. The country is facing a sustained wave of new infections fueled by vaccine skepticism. Doctors are raising the alarm. And in the Bundesliga, Dortmund have their Norwegian talisman to thank again. Erling Haaland scores twice to clinch the points against Mainz. I'm Pablo Folilias. Welcome to the programme. Thousands of protesters have rallied in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, calling for the transitional government to be dissolved and replaced by a military administration. The protests follow a failed coup attempt in September and come amid deep divisions among the factions governing the East African country. Sudan has been ruled by an uneasy alliance of military and civilian groups since the toppling of autocratic President Omar al-Bashir in 2019. But support for the government has waned in recent months in the face of tough economic reforms. Well, we're joined now by Jonas Horner. He's working for the international NGO Crisis Group and is based in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. Hi, welcome to DW. Now, why are these protests taking place now?
Well, these protests take place in the context of a coup attempt that occurred about 3 weeks ago that brought the existing tensions within this hybrid military-civilian government out into the open and brought things into a more overt platform. The military have concerns about the prospect of justice for abuses that were committed during the Bashir era and since then, during Sudan's revolution. They're concerned about the handover of the Sovereign Council, which is an executive body in government that they currently are chairs of, and pressure for them to give over military companies. You also have a split in the civilian side of the transition government, the Forces for Freedom and Change. And really, I think you also are hitting an existential moment for Sudan, with parties who are part of the government and wanting to be part of the government, seeking really to control what comes next following elections that are scheduled for 2024.
Right, now, you touched on it there, but Sudanese dictator Omar al-Bashir was ousted by the army in April 2019. Tell us more about the role of the military in Sudan over the past 2 years.
Certainly. Well, as I said, the military are one part of the hybrid transitional government that is governing Sudan's transition in advance of these elections scheduled for 2024. So much of the protesting against Bashir originally also, included overt calls for a move to a civilian government, and of course, by extension, a move away from military dominance of Sudan's politics and the economy. And certainly for the last 30 years of Omar al-Bashir, the military have dominated the economy. They run the key sectors of the economy and have always benefited from key advantages there. In this transitional period, they have unfortunately dragged their feet and blocked key reforms, particularly on the economy and other areas. And they've also sort of offered this false dichotomy that suggests that they're the only ones who can really be the deliverers of security in Sudan, when in fact, what the protesters of the revolution sought was for a civilian command and control of the military, and for civilians to really take charge of their own security rather than having the military dominate politically and in the security sector.
Jonas Horner, Senior Analyst for Sudan, working for the international NGO Crisis Group in Khartoum. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Let's catch up now with some of the other stories making headlines around the world. A Russian crew has returned to Earth after filming movie scenes for the first time in space. The actor and director spent 12 days at the International Space Station for the shoot. Cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky accompanied them on the trip back in a Soyuz capsule. Police in Peru have seized almost 5 tons of drugs in a nationwide anti-narcotics operation. Dozens of bags of cocaine and marijuana were found buried in jungle areas. The United Nations says Peru is one of the world's top cocaine producers. A candlelit vigil was held on Saturday in memory of the British politician David Amess, who was stabbed to death while meeting constituents. British police are treating the killing as a possible Islamist attack. A 25-year-old man is in custody. Well, Russia's daily coronavirus death toll has hit 1,000. It's the highest number since the pandemic began. Russia was the first country in the world to approve a coronavirus vaccine, but uptake has been low and less than 1/3 of the population is fully vaccinated. Official figures show more than 220,000 people have now died from the coronavirus in Russia, but it's believed the true death toll could be 3 times higher.
Ambulances race through Moscow's streets. Outside of the city's hospitals, this is one of the few signs of Russia reaching its highest daily death toll since the pandemic began. There are hardly any official restrictions in place here, and the government has ruled out a nationwide lockdown. 2/3 of Russians are still unvaccinated, and polls show half of them plan on staying that way. Mistrust in the government and Russian-developed vaccines, along with mixed messages from officials, has contributed to a trend of vaccine hesitancy. And many Russians have found ways around any restrictions for the unvaccinated. It's no big secret. There are a lot of fake vaccination certificates. People can buy them. They don't trust the vaccine, and so they don't get vaccinated. So there's no protection. This is propagating the virus. The Kremlin has called the vaccination rate unacceptably low. Authorities blame the public's behaviour for rising infection rates, but say the nation's healthcare system is coping. Packed intensive care units tell a different story. Retired doctors have been asked to come back. Many healthcare workers are frustrated at government inaction. There must be a more adequate campaign to get people vaccinated, more advocacy. Some regions are imposing their own restrictions, but without a countrywide plan and with vaccination rates stagnating, Russia is heading into a long and deadly hard winter.
Well, for unvaccinated people here in Germany, a night out is becoming increasingly difficult. Cinemas, bars and many indoor entertainment venues only admit customers who are fully vaccinated or show a negative COVID-19 test result. The German government ended its free test strategy at the start of the week to push those people who aren't jabbed to change their minds. And that's over 30% of the population.
Inside, the barman is mixing the drinks. Outside, the drinkers are being checked. Owner Adrian Senzillo routinely inspects his patrons' vaccine certificates. Fewer and fewer guests are unvaccinated.
Between 1 and 5% are not vaccinated, and they show a negative coronavirus test result. That's it.
But there are many who are still unvaccinated, and at this testing station in Karlsruhe, they now have to pay for an antigen test. They cost almost 16 euros. This woman isn't vaccinated and is planning a trip.
I travel in train, but I want to be sure that everything is okay.
On the one hand, it is fair because the vaccine is on offer. But on the other hand, it's costly. 16 euros for each test. It's not cheap.
In Karlsruhe and here in Stuttgart, the vaccination teams are busy. The queue for this vaccine bus seems to go on forever. But it's not clear if the end of free testing is the reason. I really feel under pressure. I can't go to the theatre or the opera. Soon I'll have to pay for tests myself.
I want to get tested not because of the virus, but because of the restrictions. They've become so inconvenient.
In Karlsruhe and Stuttgart, it looks like more people are taking advantage of the mobile vaccination centres.
Subjectively, we have the impression that interest has increased, but the data for the whole country does not reflect that yet. We've been seeing a downward trend for many weeks. Back in June, we were vaccinating 1.4 million people a day. Now it's below 200,000.